Hello, welcome back to Thirsty Thursday. Hi, Will. Today
Hi,
we're
Susan.
talking about a bunch of cool stories that caught our eye as usual. But we like to start with the topic of the week, what was discussed on our podcast. Do you want to chat that out?
Yes. First, I want to say it's been quite the week, Susan. Last week we were talking about the insurrection on Capitol Hill in the States, and this week, a week later, Trump's been impeached for the second time. I just want to say, wow, a lot has happened. But going back to our podcast, we called it, I think it was like bringing your Instagram game to LinkedIn, and it was all about, everyone thinks LinkedIn is this one thing, this button-up, stiff kind of like the professional blues and smart posts. But it's getting harder and harder to stand out because everybody seems to have gone to LinkedIn, the digital platform for B2B or, whatever. And what we're noticing is standing out is when people bring that Instagram game, right, Susan, to LinkedIn. Right. Why don't you explain what we mean by that?
Yeah, so we've spoken to a few people along the way in which we've said, okay, you've got a solid presence on one platform. How does some of that translate to another one? And it's possible in many ways, but one of the ones that people don't instantly think about is taking Instagram content. So if you're like, you've got influencer material, or you've got a lot of brands that you've been working with, and you've done a really good job of it on Instagram, why wouldn't you bring some of it? Not just slap everything onto LinkedIn willy-nilly, but just a thoughtful curation. First things first, Instagram is so focused on the beauty of the thing, and it's on image, and that's not at all the case with LinkedIn. So you'd immediately declutter a little bit. As well, Instagram is a powerful video tool. And if you're making video for Instagram, it makes sense to sort of like cross populate. This is not news to anyone. I think it's just like we're saying, think about more ways in which you can, throughout this episode, we'll touch on things which talk about that. Think of more ways in which you can use what you already have. You don't have to break out into creation all the time. So that was our episode. Go check it out. We talked to Adam McDermott and Griffin Nyquor on a podcast about this about a year ago, about how they have why don't you talk that out, Will?
Yeah, they work for a gym, a common ground. Unfortunately, they're shut down right now, like a lot of gyms and small businesses. But they talked about, they kill it on Instagram. So we were giving them some tips on ways to maybe bring that Instagram game over to LinkedIn. So check that out. The podcast came out 4 a.m. today, so we'll put the link to it if you want to listen to that episode. But it also reminded me, bringing something fresh to a different platform. Dionne Warwick, the 1970s kind of diva singer, she's amazing. She's been on Twitter for a while, but she's just been noticed on Twitter just for her saying random things, kind of learning how Twitter goes, saying what she thinks. Everybody is loving Dionne Warwick. Saturday Night Live did a sketch on Dionne Warwick being on Twitter. Like just recently, she was learning about Cardi B and Offset. And one of her questions was, well, is there an onset? So check out Dionne Warwick if you want to get an idea of bringing something fresh to a platform. She definitely is very un-Twitter and succeeding on Twitter. So
that's
very cool.
So true. She, I believe her first tweet, she tagged Snoop Dogg, and then she's like, did I do it right?
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
How do I talk to Snoop Dogg? Something I wanted to talk about with you is something you posted this week about the Kamala Harris Vogue cover controversy. You wrote a great post on LinkedIn that got lots of people talking. Why don't you address that?
Yeah, I think it was the question that there was a number of pieces written about it, but it was a question of the way in which she was represented on the cover of the Vogue February issue, which is what she's on. And I believe when you and I first looked at it, and we were like, listen, this is a normal picture of a great woman. She looks great. Her team dressed her, all of it was fab, except along the way, it became clear that people were expecting more from it. That was what it was. The Vogue audience, I guess, likes to see a certain level of production value and, just something that blows them away, I guess. And it appeared that a lot of the audience was a little bit disappointed. Now, as with any story like this, things start to get, like, once you start to talk about it, more and more things will emerge. So a lot of news came out about, how this was, a little bit disappointing, because she is the country's first leader at this level that is a woman of color. It's an historic moment. And just the feeling was that Vogue doesn't always have the greatest of diverse culture, and they just handle this poorly. Having said that, there's all the conspiracy theories along the way. What do I think? I don't know. I'm like, she looks great. I'm just a little bummed that we're talking about the Vogue cover and Kamala Harris as opposed to the much cooler things. But it is what it is. I think my takeaway is go back to your audience. Like, what does your audience want? And
that's a good point.
You doggedly deliver to that. There's
that's a great point. I agree completely. I echo and agree with everything you said there. I do think people wanted that wow moment. And then that opened the door to all these questions about, well, why didn't she get the wow moment? And I think that's what the discussion was about. I do want to flip the switch here a little bit and talk about something fun that I saw the other day. Cadbury Easter cream eggs turns 50. You love them, you hate them, right? I think, but we all grew up knowing what those were. It's a sign Easter's coming, right? Already in January, we're talking about Cadbury. They turned 50, so they celebrated with a commercial they called the Golden Goobly instead of Golden Jubilee, like the Queen's 50th. And it was all of these ways we enjoy Cadbury cream eggs. As someone who enjoyed them with my dad when I was young, I totally got it. Everybody eats it a different way. It was a really fun commercial. And it ends with two men holding either side of the egg with their mouth, and they pull it apart. So of course, the trolls come for the commercial, but it got shut down because everybody overwhelmingly thought the commercial was great. Cadbury said, we've always been a brand that stands for inclusion and we're progressive, so go away. And people went away. And it's just a fun little commercial. So look it up if you haven't seen that.
That's cool. And sometimes that's important, right? You sort of stand for what you believe in. And if you're like, you're all mad at me, that's okay. I still believe this.
Exactly.
Cool too.
Exactly. Then I wanted to talk to you, Susan, about something that Netflix announced, which I'm excited about. And I'm sure everyone who's locked down and staying at home more is excited about. They've committed to releasing one new big giant movie every week with big stars like The Rock, Melissa McCarthy as a superhero, Halle Berry as a boxer. Most of them are Netflix originals. And they've said one movie a week, every week for the whole year, they're going to release one, which is great news for all of us. But also I'm wondering if this is in response to Warner Brothers saying, all of our big blockbuster movies we're going to release on demand, which people have to pay $30 to see on demand. Or I think in the States, it's HBO Max. You can watch them, I guess, if you subscribe to that. So maybe this is Netflix's response, but it's quite the response.
It's clever. Yeah, it's clever. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And also more couch potato time for all of us. So there's that.
More couch potato time.
Speaking of new material or old material that's going to be new material, the Sex and the City teams, most of the Sex and the City teams coming back together to release some more. This kind of thing. I mean, I'm a fan. Like, I watched every last bit of it, like all the movies that people hated, all of it. And to me, I'm like, this is great. Like, if something is good content, give it a new look and new hook and bring it back. Like, we speak about repurpose all the time. And I think this is a great sort of example.
Look how you brought Sex and the City into the marketing content world.
Right?
I love that. It's so true, though. You're right. Like, it's so true, right? Like, look at your content, audit your content, consistently be doing that. What's working? Bring it back. Slap maybe a fresh coat of paint on it. This time there's no Samantha. That's what's fresh.
Yeah.
And yeah, we always say, Susan, I say it now because you said it so much to me. We as content creators get sick of our content way before the audience gets sick of your content. And I really do believe that. I will watch Carrie Bradshaw. I will watch Carrie Bradshaw like do anything, like paint a wall. Like, I am in for this. So
right. 100%. So that's the sort of week stories that that caught our eye, the thirsty stories of the week, and how you can link it back to the way in which you're communicating in the great wide interwebs this week.
Right. Try a different, like to summarize, it's try a different platform. Keep doing your content audits. Remember to surprise and delight. The haters are going to hate. Those are our takeaways for this week. Okay, thanks, Susan. Thanks for doing this. Bye.